our productivity is low. But what I can share with you is that according to the IMD Institute of Management Development results, we're ranked 56 out of 69 countries. So that index is not good.
We're low.
That's
Yeah.
that's like F, right?
In
class.
Ungraded.
Ungraded.
56 out of 69. That's past an F.
Like, wow. That's shocking.
It is.
Guys, I'm not used to these marks. Like, it's so foreign to me. It's like 0%.
The sapiosexual platter.
Botswana's next great resource has been found. And it isn't the diamonds. It is the people. But our productivity is low, our well-being is strained, and we're not tapping into our full potential. How do we develop our human capital? And how do we unlock the next level? That is the conversation that we're having today. My name is Belse Abo Ame.
I am Shatani Somalakai.
Welcome to the Sapiosexual Platter.
On the platter today, we have distinguished guests. They are eminent thought leaders, celebrated professionals, and most importantly, they are passionate about people and what drives them. We have, firstly, Dr. Selemoge, who is a forensic and clinical psychologist. She holds a master's degree in psychology and organizational behavior and a PhD in forensic clinical psychology. On my left, we have Dr. Zelda Okach, who is an accomplished economist and research professional with extensive experience in productivity, competitiveness, and sustainable development. She also holds a PhD in economics.
Welcome, ladies. Welcome.
Welcome to the Sapiosexual Platter.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm particularly excited to have you here because I feel like I'm meeting the heroes of the country. You recently held a productivity and wellness summit where I get the chance to meet you, see you both the first time in action. And I thought it was just so profound what you guys are doing and just so powerful that it was very necessary to have you here and also the information that you were sharing there. So well done and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm also excited for our viewers at home.
Yes.
Because a lot of the comments and see guys we've been listening has been we should bring various professionals, and this time we went a step further. We bought the heavyweights. They
Exactly.
have PhDs and we got 2 of them. Okay.
So you're coming for us in the comments. We've got specialists
So thank you so much. Let's get right into it. Yes. We know where Botswana is at. I don't think there's need for us to repeat, the critical time that we're at in the nation of Botswana in terms of the dynamics and what's happening in the economy and some of the solutions that have been brought forward as ways that we can possibly change the situation. Of particular interest is the Botswana Economic Transformation Program, where government is really streamlining different ideas to try and identify the one that has the highest return on investment, so that we can change the where we are in terms of our economics and how much money we're able to bring into the economy. And so before we even get to that, let's get into where we are as a nation from a people perspective. Where are the people at? And I think Dr. Selemoge, you can answer that question.
Thank you for that question. I was wondering, where are they? They are here. I think the difference, they are. They are very present in terms of what is happening in the world of work. Mm-hmm. I think the difference then comes in terms of what are people doing at work, what is happening within the work environment that has actually resulted into where we are as a country. And the very same people are here to actually take it to a different level. I think, so I would say the people are right here.
Okay.
Like as Belle said, we do have the resource. The human capital is the resource that actually can actually transform us as a nation.
The people are here.
So, Dr. Selamage, why would you say, like what Shati was saying, Hore, there've just been different things that the government is coming up with to diversify the economy and to also just raise the trajectory of Botswana? If the people are here and we have this human capital, then shouldn't the shift be to invest in the people and their capacity?
Yeah, I think government, we have to give props to government.
Yes.
Government has invested a lot in terms of Botswana. Botswana are very educated. I think what we need to then pivot into is the mindset in terms of utilization of that knowledge and the skill within the work environment. That's what we need. There's been a lot of trainings. I think maybe if you want to talk about training, I would say let's focus on the transformation in terms of how we see work, how we relate it to work, and the productivity that my colleague is going to talk about. In terms of the degrees that people have, in terms of whatever PhD or whatever education is there, it's us actually looking at ourselves and saying, what is it that we need to do at an individual level, at a community level, at a national level, to change our way of thinking about work so that we can transform into this country that we are all wishing for, that is transformative, that is economically sustainable. It is people. Yeah, projects can be there. I believe people have always had projects. Yeah. So the people need to change the way that they view work and treat each other at work, I must say. Yeah.
I love that. So it's and that's what's interesting about our country. There's so many positive things to say. We're so educated, case in point, right? However, in terms of there's also another reality that is equally dark, which is our productivity levels. And so maybe before we develop the conversation, Dr. Zelda, you can come in and speak to those, because when we were listening to them at the Productivity Summit, it was shocking. In terms of, on the one hand, as Dr. Selemoga mentioned, there's so many positives in terms of how educated we are. But what are the numbers and what is the reality in terms of our productivity, our mental health, our state of happiness?
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And I really think it's befitting for me to answer it because I work at the Botswana National Productivity Center. So we are the people who are charged with driving productivity within the economy. So we've done a lot of investigations, we've done a lot of studies to try and figure out what is the problem. Why is it that when it comes to productivity, it is so low? Why is our workforce not motivated? Like, for instance, we partner with an institution in Switzerland called the Institute for Management Development. And we went to the private sector and we asked them, give us 5 reasons or give us 5 indicators that you think make Botswana attractive as a place to invest. And on the top 3, you get skilled workforce. But at the bottom there, you'll discover that worker motivation is the problem. But I don't know if this is English or...
You can speak Setswana, any language you prefer.
Okay.
Yeah.
But one thing I've admired about the Motswana is that how you find the collaboration, the productivity, you find people are serving food, people are working together. There is so much collaboration, so much productivity. Go to a funeral, the same thing. You find the Motswana is there serving the food, this one is doing this. Everything is so organized. Go to the workplace. We have a totally different story. That collaboration that we had at the funeral, at the lenyalo, somehow misses. And the question is why are our people not at that point? Because now I'm from a country I'm not going to mention just in case I'll be shot later. Because I know everybody's watching this. And I once went for a funeral. The food got ready at 3 p.m.
Oh, wow.
We started
3 p.m.
waiting for food.
Whoa.
Botswana kabo 8:30 OG everything has been done. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And one thing that we discovered is that at the end of the day, that ownership is missing in the workplace. Calling Nyalong, this is my family, this is our name, this is my clan, this is my people, this is my what you call it. But when you go to the workplace, this business is not mine. This business belongs to somebody else.
This is government.
This is government. So we miss that element of ownership that we need to instill in our people. And called BMPC, we've been talking about this thing called, what is the right word for it? It's called gain sharing. Where we're
It's
saying
called what, sorry?
Gain sharing.
gain sharing.
Gain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Where we're saying employers try so hard to make sure that your employee shares in your profit. You know, give your employee shares in the business. Give them, you know, like if you make money, give them a bit. And we tried so hard because one of the projects we wanted to do was in the agriculture sector, where the Badisa somehow, if you're a Mudisa, you can benefit if the cow, sola, you take maybe a calf or something like that, so that you can feel part and own the business. And we feel that going forward could increase the productivity levels in the country. I'll just leave it for now. And
I love what you said. So it's a solution, and I love that we're already getting into solutions. But I want us to just track back a little bit into like where are the levels at that warrant this kind of discussion on productivity?
And in addition to what Shati's saying, I would want you to also expand that point because you left my thought hanging. You said with the Switzerland's company there were three things. So you spoke about skill force. So what are the other two? But yeah, you can start with Shatanya's.
okay,
Paint the picture.
Okay, when it comes to productivity, ever since COVID, productivity levels have been falling. Like if we look at labor productivity, in 2024, it was 0.4% growth. Compared to in 2023, where the growth rate in labor productivity was 2.23. So it declined. And if it was GDP that had declined like that, we would all be blowing a trumpet. This is bad. This is serious. But because it's people, we kind of don't have the conversation that this is really serious. It's not really like a national thing that is being discussed, but it is declining. And according to our Vision 2036, what it states is that by 2036, productivity should be growing at 3.2%. In 2024, it was 0.4%.
Oh, wow.
Which is a problem, and we have to do a lot of work to get there. The next question she asked.
So what does that mean? So you're talking about growth level. How if somebody's listening, like is it a good thing? Is our with or without growth, our productivity levels at a good place? Do we have a figure for that?
Our productivity is low. I can't get the figure off my head because there's an index that we calculate, and then from the index we calculate the growth rate. But what I can share with you is that when we take that index, according to the IMD Institute of Management Development results, when we look at that particular index, we're ranked 56 out of 69 countries. So that index is not good.
We're low.
That's
Yeah.
that's like F, right?
In class.
Ungraded.
Ungraded.
56 out of 69. That's past an F.
Like, wow, that's shocking.
It is, yeah. But
It's
when we
concerning.
What was the status quo prior to COVID? Because you speak of that was the case after COVID, it's been declining. But what was the case before COVID?
Before COVID, labor productivity seemed to be growing. It was pretty good because it was not good during the global financial crisis. It went down. It became negative.
What year was that?
I think 2009, 2008 there. And then went down again in 2015. I think there was this slight recession we had in 2015. I remember President Ian Kama even came up with a package. What was it called?
Was it the 4 Ps?
It was a stimulus package he came up with to
okay.
try to revive the economy then because of that recession. So due to that recession, productivity went down. Yeah.
It sounds to me like there's a direct correlation between like how well people are doing economically and productivity.
Yes, there is. It follows because I get it when you're growing. You're able to invest in machinery that will further grow your productivity. Yes, you're able to train your people, which will further grow your productivity. Yeah.
But if there's that correlation, you look at Botswana, and Botswana has been this magical country of Africa, right? And we discovered diamonds 2 years after independence. From being the second poorest country in the world, we've come to be one of the economically healthy countries in Africa, and we're very celebrated. So by your analogy that when your GDP is high, when the country is economically doing well, it increases the levels of productivity in people. Why is it that then if we came from the second poorest country in the world in 1966 to where we are now, why haven't our productivity levels skyrocketed in correlation to our GDP as it's been going up?
For something like this to happen in our country where there's economic decline, it didn't happen overnight. There was probably some decline that we've not been paying attention to. So the economists can speak a lot about that. But what I, maybe as a psychologist, as a clinician, I can say, coming from seeing people at the clinic at Psych Matters, is that the issue of motivation that Zelda has highlighted in terms of we rate really low. Can you just say that number in terms of where we rate with regards to motivation, is looking at what is it that for us really motivates us as Botswana. I always say that, you know what, we have done a disservice to our forefathers because they worked hard. They worked hard to take us from the poorest to where we were or where we are. So for us, we came in when there was abundance. Maybe we did not learn to work as hard as they did because we found something already in place. And so even in terms of changing, I believe that there has to be a change of understanding that we don't have abundance that we always had. So that the mindset is actually on working to create abundance that we found other people having created. Yeah, so the issue here if we are doing well, there's going to be productivity. It's just very simple. If you are happy, you're gonna be productive. That's the assumption. And then if there's no productivity, it also impacts like the output, ultimately how we feel about going to work, what we get paid from work. So there is actually a bi-directional relationship, Zelda, if I may say, in terms of those two.
But isn't it also like a beneficiary aspect as well? Say like on the paper, it may look like Botswana is doing well economically. And that's true. But in terms of when we now take it to the individual level, is it true to say, well, the economy is good, but are the people good? And like maybe you can speak to that to say like, what is the practical reality? When somebody looks at on paper and says, Botswana is doing well, are Botswana doing well economically?
I think one of the indicators used to measure if a country's people are doing well is called GDP per capita. And that measure, they've discovered a lot of flaws in it because what it does is it takes the goods and services we've produced as a country and divided by the population. So it doesn't really tell you where the pains are and who's getting what and
Yeah.
who, how many people are left
Powerful.
behind.
Yeah.
So there was a country called Baton. There's a country called Baton. So what it did is that it did away completely with gross domestic product per capita
Powerful.
and came up with something called the gross happiness index.
I like that.
Yeah, they said, do away with this economic measure. Let us see if our people are happy. Because at the end of the day, what should matter is the happiness of the people. And even the US, there's a document in the US that talks about the pursuit. Everyone should pursue happiness. And it was given that this organization started measuring a happiness index. And 147 countries are put in that index, and then they measure how happy you are. And in 2025, Botswana scored 142 out of 147 countries.
Guys, I'm not used to these marks. This is so foreign to me. It's like 0%. Whoa.
So we may have the money, but we're not happy. Mozambique scored 96 out of 147 countries. When you look at the GDP per capita of Mozambique, they're way lower than us.
Yeah.
We are an upper middle income country. But our people are not happy. Where are the pains? And that's why it's so important for us to talk about well-being, because many studies show that happiness and productivity are correlated. If I'm happy, I'm going to be more productive in everything that I do. Yeah.
So, Dr. Salamoge, why are we so unhappy?
You know what? I am just even thinking about it as the elder is speaking. I think when because I did organizational behavior as a master's degree, but one of the things that we can think about is when we go to work, are we given work that is meaningful to us? What does that work mean to us? I picked the issue that we say organizational citizenship. Are we citizens of those organizations? That contributes to happiness at work. Is there fairness at work? And then the way that we treat employees, is it fair and equitable for everybody? That is one of the things that are an ingredient actually in terms of happiness at work, which can permeate into other domains of our lives. Things that has a bearing in terms of me as a person and my purpose and my vision as a person. It contributes to happiness. If you're doing something that you love, like you guys are doing the podcast, it has meaning, and you know you are aligned with that. It brings about a sense of being and why and purpose. Yeah, I've taught at university level, and one day I asked some students at this other university, I said, why are you taking this course? You know, some people are attracted to courses because of maybe the uniform that they wear. So imagine those people at work. What is going to happen to that person in terms of the sense of meaning of whatever career? And then the relationship, I think from the summit, what came out is the dynamics that we see at work, how people relate with each other. I know when I presented on the issue of bullying, a lot of people seem to resonate with that topic in terms of the behaviors that they see from peers, from supervisors, that contributes to unhappiness in the workforce.
So it sounds like there's a lot of purposelessness in the way that we do things. And maybe, I guess it makes sense because I think there's somewhere along the line where there was less emphasis on doing something that's aligned with your purpose and more emphasis on what will you do something that may bring more money. I know a lot of people are doing law not because they like law, but because they think that it comes with, heavy like financial benefits. or there are these professions that are like in fashion or like what people consider to be top tier professions, doctor, accountant, so forth and so on. So would you say that in people going to school, maybe it starts there, that there isn't a focus on purpose, and that may be like a reason?
I want to believe it contributes in terms of how intentional we are in terms of our lives as beings. And when there's no clarity and a vision, which I always say, when there's no vision, people say my people perish.
Yes.
We do perish when there's no vision. And when the vision is not active, because you can have a vision, but when it's not active, active visions are, when the vision is not active, when you see this vision, but you're not doing anything about it, it does bring a sense of emptiness.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to have a house or this, but people always complain and say, you know what, I don't know what it is, but I don't get it. Like, what's the point? I have the car, I have this, I have that. It's because we don't have a vision that is active. We can get things done. We can get a house. It's not a vision board. A vision is something that is beyond the transcend, beyond you as a being. Yeah, that thing contributes to being content because you are always striving for it. You are active, and then we find that as I teach. Is that the things that we do then become aligned, the career becomes aligned, the friends that we keep become aligned to that active vision. And things that are not part of the vision, they have to fall off. So for us, sometimes we get so caught up with the business and the noise of the world. I get the world, I'm not talking about from a Christian point of view, I'm just talking about just being. That, and then we also do the same at work. We forget why we are at work. Yeah, we forget. We even come to work without understanding, why do I work here? Why this particular job? Why this company? So my encouragement for me as somebody who facilitates, I always say, why are you going to X, not Y? How is it aligned with your vision? Because then you're going to become a problem to your supervisor and to yourself at some point. So that is a nutshell in terms of happiness that I have seen in terms of just engaging with different people or even also reading different books. Not necessarily of psychology, but other books that talk about human behavior.
When I was listening to you, and I found what you were saying very powerful, I thought about where we're coming from in terms of our skill force and also purpose and the work that we do. So the thing about the elderly generation, our forefathers, when they came out of school, they would be told, go to Tirelo Setšhaba, then you'd find a job waiting for you. So there wasn't a sense of intentionality within themselves about what that purpose was. Because at the time, the jobs were created to fit where the economy was and what they were trying to evolve, right? But in that era, it seems like people had more productivity, they had more resilience, and they were focused, notwithstanding that they may not necessarily know the purpose, or they may be in a career that they're not passionate about, but they still held on, and they were still productive, and there was still a certain level of well-being. And I say to you that, where was the compromise? Because it seems now in this generation, it's harder to do what they were able to do, which is to say, move past yourself and stay on course or stay on the vision. Now, it's harder to be productive when we choose careers that are maybe not aligned with our passion and our purpose. Why is that? Why is that shift present?
I think when you look at the different generations, because people always talk about the baby boomers, when you look at the paradigm shift in terms of work, right? The old paradigm in terms of work, people looked at work from more of a relational point of view as compared to now where it's more transactional. Yeah. People wanted structure. Right now, when you look at the Gen Zs and the millennials, they want flexibility. Career development was the role of the employer as compared to now. people can do their podcasts, they can do this and that and that. So, like right now, the generations that we have within the workforce, they are more independent and having more control in terms of their career as compared to the other generations prior. So even the mindset was very different in terms of work. Yeah.
Shouldn't it be that now that we have more control and we're able to podcast and be a lawyer and do this, shouldn't we then have more happiness?
The one would think like that. Yeah. The other thing is just to look at us at an individual level, because sometimes we look at us throwing a blanket to everybody and thinking that interventions would be suited for everybody. People are different in the workplace, so we have to have an understanding that the world of work has changed, and so are the people within. We have different generations within the workforce. It used to just be baby boomers. Yeah, so those interventions probably worked at then, or even for our generation, it worked. But when we have different generations within the workforce, it does create something which we need to be aware of and manage effectively in order to be productive.
There's this issue of leadership, which is so important when it comes to productivity. And I really believe that the leadership training, you must capacitate them to know that there are different types of generations that they're working with, different age groups that require different things, and even the way you supervise them is different. Like, for instance, if you're supervising somebody in their 50s, that generation took instruction very well and followed it to the letter. You come up with somebody who's in the 20s, they're used to answering back. They'll ask you why. They'll ask you what for. They want to give their input. So the way you manage that particular person to be happy is more different than the way you would talk to somebody who's 50. So this is something that us as leadership, those who are in leadership positions, need to be very, very aware or attuned to, so that they can implement it in the workplace. Yeah.
So, to something that you spoke about, you said that when you look at Botswana and why it's a great place to invest in, it's that we have skilled workforce. So we have these highly educated people. Why is it that our education is not translating into productivity? And beyond that, why don't we as a people then have a realization that there's a limitation when it comes to our education, because clearly it's not bearing the fruits?
I think that there are two issues in my head.
Yes.
One is that, are we producing labor force that is congruent with what the market wants? Number one. And then accountability. I am so big on accountability. Are we making our leaders accountable? Are we making employees accountable? Those are the two main things. Because you see, I'll start with one. There's been a lot of dialogue about, especially in terms of academic institutions, that we are producing graduates that are not able to work, and therefore there's no productivity. I think at the summit somebody said our graduates, they have to be retaught and taught and taught and taught. That is another topic that we can actually focus on. Now, what are the curricula? Do people understand curriculum development in terms of learning outcomes that would actually fit into the market? But what I would also want us to highlight is the issue of accountability. I think for us as leaders, you see, when I always say, when we treat every employee the same, that's where the problem is. For people that perform, you have to reward them. For people who do not work, there has to be consequences that are negative for them. Yeah, so understanding that we are different and people have to be rewarded, or their behavior has to be commensurate with whatever comes after. It can actually also impact the level of productivity and the way that they view work.
The motivation.
Their motivation, yeah. And then also in terms of leadership, I speak a lot about leadership well-being. and resilience. I think even right now we can think about what our leaders are going through. So we can also focus on what do leaders need in terms of support to actually transform workplaces in order for us to have a conducive environment for productivity. A lot of times when we think about well-being, we think about employee well-being. We don't think about the leaders. I believe that even for our partners at BNPC Psych Matters, we believe that there has to be an attention to both. An attention to both in order for us to transform. When we are talking about projects, let's also look at these two sectors of employees, employer, in terms of their well-being and how to enable an environment that would allow all of us to thrive.
That's powerful.
That's very powerful. Yeah. I think it explains a lot in terms of Botswana. Because when you think about how we treat our leaders, I think there could be more compassion for them. And because I've also sat in various leadership roles where I recognize that I could do everything, but like you're leading people who fundamentally have no appreciation and no understanding. And there's a blame game that's played where you're like, sometimes I challenge people to say, right now, if you were the president of this country and had to undertake a project, do you think that the people will be capacitated enough to make sure that your vision comes to life? And I look and I'm like, yo, I don't know. Like, let's be honest. Like, if because you think the president is such a powerful person and can just snap his fingers. But I think that a leader is as powerful as his people. And if the people don't have the capacity, he could have the most brilliant of ideas, but his people are going to let him down. But I also like the reverse of it, which is, we also live in a country where there are low levels of accountability. You think about the levels of corruption and what we've done, and you can count the number of people just by one hand, who've even gone to jail for, being involved in corruption or, taking decisions that have affected everybody. And there's no accountability, and then we just keep going on, like nothing has happened. And then when you have that combination, no wonder where we are.
I remember we are talking to Lawyer Zelda. They can talk about law.
It's just to highlight the culture around accountability. To say, Mo Botswana, a lot of people have just gotten off scot-free, and they move on. And we also just chat with them in public. And, in other countries, the leaders who make one mistake and they themselves resign.
They have to resign,
They resign. Nobody needs to tell you. They're just like, you drop the balsa, and they will be the ones to say out themselves and say, I'm resigning. In Botswana, they will stay and,
But I think one thing that we also need to look into is the type of leadership we're breeding. Because there's a difference between a leader and a boss. And sometimes we find people, bosses are entitled. They believe this is my right because I'm leading, I get this. But a leader is somebody who inspires others and brings the best out of others. So from the perspective of a leader, it's like you're there for the people. It's all about the people. And then when it comes to the boss mentality, you do this, you do that, you do this, you're doing it because I'm telling you, or it's because it's all about me. So maybe another conversation that we need to have is, how do we develop our leadership to be transformative? Yes, so that we're at this point where it's now, okay, I'm a leader and these are my people and I'm working for them. I'm serving, I'm not being served.
Zelda, you said something that struck a chord with me. Sometimes leaders can get caught up in the inspiration and lack the management of performance. So leaders inspire, but they manage performance. They inspire people, but they manage work and manage performance. So the combination, I want to believe as a leader, it can be daunting. And hence why we are talking about this transformational leadership. I think the other thing in terms of leadership that we can highlight that brings about productivity is that are you exemplary? Because you see, the thing is that when we are not exemplary in terms of productivity in the workplace, we kill productivity of employees. Yeah, if we cannot account for self and lead self, there's no way that you can lead others.
That's true.
There's no way that you can lead it. So I think when we talked about you first started, or when we started the conversation, is where the people, we are here. We are all here. I think we just need a journey of reflection and having accountability, being very clear what we are doing as a nation in terms of the work environment.
And where would you say, a question to both of you, is the starting point to building our productivity and wellness for the better? Now that we've recognized what the problem is and how it affects us and our output, where do we fix the problem? How do we start?
I think it all starts with staff well-being. I think it's really important that the employer see the employee as a partner, and we're working together for a common cause. And so when you start extending a bit of compassion to your employee, you provide like mental health support if they're struggling, you provide financial support if I have an emergency and I need an advance. When you provide things like that, you have an employee who now feels like they're valued, they're supported, and then they start producing a bit more. So I think it starts with that.
Though. The people that you do that for, you give and give, and they have a bread of shame, and they take, but they come back and they insult you. It ends up having the reverse. You think like, oh my God, I'm compassionate, I'm so understanding of your problem. Oh, you need an advance, I'll give you an advance.
I
A lot
hear
of the
you.
people that you encounter, they just end up taking advantage. And
isn't that the
mistreating you.
Motswana? Because we have.
I hear
mean,
you.
that theory may not work because that's what a Motswana is.
is.
It's extension of compassion of, don't worry, your medical bills sorted. Don't worry, your education sorted. You want some land? Just apply. You stand in a line.
You want to start
get
a
it.
business?
You want to start a business? Oh, there's Cedar, there's Leah, there's.
But you know what the ingredient is? Accountability.
It's accountability, yes.
So in terms of all the things that we've given, what is it that you are giving back? It's not even about giving back to the country. What are the results of these lands that you are given? What are the results of these grants? And then the monitoring and evaluation of what we do. Yeah, for me, it's actually one of the things that I say, if all these projects that are going to be implemented, there's going to be monitoring and evaluation and clear accountability on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis, in terms of the result. Yeah, as much as I do believe in employee assistance program, which Zalda has just talked about, I do believe that we can be human. I think the trap that we get into is when we become overly EAP prone. And
What's
then we've
EAP?
employee assistance program where we have mental health, financial well-being, legal assistance, which provides for conducive work environment that is non-toxic. That is if we do it to the latter. We can also, in the same breath, be very clear about what is it that we are expecting from employees and what happens when that does not happen. So it's because the problem is that people either take this one and then take this one. So we can learn how we can actually have more of a conversation. I was reading Forbes. A very recent article talked about how leaders are actually are now quitting the nice boss and then the boss attitude of employee assistance, and they're going into this attitude of performance reviews and all that, which is very transactional sometimes. We can have a balance. We can try to strive for a balance where we understand boundaries at work.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. So that you don't cross your own boundary now doing everything for the employee in the name of I want to be nice. Right? Yeah. So we can learn boundaries at work when it's time to actually focus on things that are emotionally driven, we do that. When it comes to work, we work. Yeah.
I guess it's striking a balance because organizations like Google, I tell you, they go all out for their employees, and they're one of the most productive. But I think it's a matter of maybe benchmarking and understand how is it that they give all these benefits and still tap the best out of their people. I'm sure, as she's indicated, there's a lot of accountability. You need to show up at the end of the day that is put in place. So I think that will help. And also, there are these soft skills that are needed, like I may have a PhD in economics, but I've never led. I'm more of a technical person. So it's a matter of taking people for leadership training, taking people for smart work ethics training, taking people for, if you're at lower levels, there's supervisory development where you learn how to be a supervisor. So I think just adding to these, if we could train our people in that aspect, it would help.
Yeah. And to add on to that, I think what you're talking about also, Zelda, is talent management within the workplace. I think the employer has a role to actually play a part in terms of talent management. But even us as employees, I tell you, for me, I'm more about taking accountability about your career as an individual, to make sure that you are quite clear in terms of what is it that I want to get out of this job. Because with pay, you have to be paid because you are hired.
That's true.
Yeah, but in terms of, can I go out of my way to learn leadership? Can I learn technology? Because we all need that. You as an individual driving yourself to the universe to get what you want. Yeah.
Doctors, now that we've realized where we are in terms of well-being, productivity, and, the statistics that you've been sharing, how then can the viewer at home who's watching walk away from watching this video and say, I can enhance my productivity or accountability by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? What would be the strategy for the person who's watching?
To be honest with you, productivity is such a personal thing. And when you do something that you're passionate in, like for instance, I love medicine, I love helping people, and I go that direction, my productivity will be enhanced naturally. As opposed to if you throw me in the deep end, you take me to engineering where there are numbers and I'm not a numbers person. So I would encourage people back at home to actually try to do things that they're passionate and things that drive them.
For me, it's about clarity. What are you doing? Because if I'm clear, this is what I am doing in life, this is what I am about, that thing will drive me into things that I'm passionate about. We talk about personal vision, things that align with that, people in my life that are aligned with that. So accountability comes from you being clear what you are and what you are about.
Wow, powerful.
Well, some research showed that people who start a business because they're passionate about it are more likely to make money than people who start a business because I have to pay rent, I have to pay school fees, and they're looking for anything that will make money. So you see, when you kind of like lean towards your passion, the money and all other things kind of tend to follow you. So I think passion is very important.
In specific relation to Botswana, because I think the system is also plays a huge contribution. You talked at the beginning about having people own what they're doing. So my question would be, do you think that because government is like the highest employer, is that the right word? Government employs most people in the country, therefore there's no ownership in those industries, that perhaps moving into what people have suggested for a while, which is privatization, which means more people own things, that might also assist? Because I think a lot of people are passionate about what they do. I meet a lot of people in government who are really passionate, but their frustration would be the way the system operates. in a way that it doesn't reward them as well, and that the people who, are the cause of problems aren't held to account and are still in positions of leadership, for instance. And then there's no ownership per se.
Yeah, I'm an economist. I always go for privatization where possible. So if people can start their own business, do their own thing, that is the route to go. The only challenge that we have as Botswana is that we're a small market. So at the end of the day, even if you start, there are very few people who you can sell to. But going forward and looking at it, there are policies, there are institutions that have been set up to help you if you want to export. We at BMPC, for instance, we come and help you just to assess the certification you'd need in order to get your goods to a state where they can be exported. So I think when you start a business, it's always good to look at the bigger picture and look at the outside market, not just Botswana.
So we've thrown a lot of philosophies, a lot of jargon, a lot of words around. Now I just want to bring it down to the spiritual aspect, because in last week's episode we had a priest and we spoke about the importance of prayer and the importance of spiritual growth and evolution. Now, with that being said, what would you say, in your opinion, is the relationship between the spirit of Botswana and the levels of productivity where we're at and the levels of well-being? And how do we also merge the two? How do we get our spirit to evolve or grow to the point where we can have great physical, mental wellness and productivity as well as a nation?
I was just thinking, what is the spirit of Botswana? And then I just said, no, don't be too academic. Because I'm like, what is the operational definition of that before I answer? So I'm not vested too much to talk about spirituality, but I can say one thing.
Yes.
In terms of your belief system as a person, and the belief systems and the values that we have as Botswana. I think we it's just like in organization. I always say, what are the values? Even when we talk in an organization, if you are doing something or I'm not happy, I can say, in here, this is our value. I think as a nation, we can remind ourselves so that we go back to those values. If we need to add more, so that it becomes things that are actionable, that we see in conversations, that we live. I believe that is the spirit. I don't know what the pastor was saying.
Yeah.
But in terms of believing in a higher power, it's quite a different conversation.
Yeah.
That can give guidance and ground us as a person to understand what is it that you are doing and where are you going. I know it's philosophical, I don't want to get there, but when we talk about just Botswana, they have actually contributed to where we were taken from poor country to middle income. I think it's those values. When you think about this song, Botswana, hearing Emambasadi, Zuhamban. You know what it talks about? Productivity. That song is about productivity and the love that we have for our country. If we can sing it and think about the meaning of it.
Yeah. Powerful.
I love that. Very spiritual answer.
And I saw you having an answer there.
You know what? I think that question has motivated me to think beyond BMPC.
Wow.
Because we at BMPC, what we do is we go out there to government, we go to the private sector, we go to like parastatals, and we're talking about how to become more productive. And I'm thinking, there's an aspect that maybe we are neglecting. Because I know I grew up go Sunday school and I learned that you must share your toys. But what about if I'd sat in that same Sunday school and learned that I have to be productive.
Oof.
I have to be, work ethic is something that I need to strive for.
Yeah.
I have to be passionate about my job and my chores at home. What about if those were the things that were taught? then we would go really farther than where we are today. And going forward, maybe it's a conversation that BMPC needs to have. Partner with churches so that occasionally we also go and give a little message of productivity, or even find a couple of pastors and train them and say, okay guys, going forward, productivity, we need this, and it's biblical. Can you find ways to support productivity within the Bible, within the Quran, or whatever religion you believe in? I think
Powerful.
that's really great.
Powerful.
Yeah, it'd be wonderful.
Before Shetty gives us our closing, I just wanted to speak on the part you started with. You just struck a chord in me in relation to, we get united when there are funerals, we get united when there's weddings. But when it comes to the systems of our workplace or just the work environment, it's like we fragment and we're not whole. And I'm now wondering, is it possibly because in terms of intrinsic understanding of the systems that actually overrule or oversee our workforce, there isn't an innate understanding to the Botswana person in the spirit of Botswana? Because Botswana o tlhaloganya lenyalo, o tlhaloganya loso. A lot of the systems that we have in our economy, they're often borrowed from other places, other countries. So there isn't that intrinsic alertness, awareness, intrinsic knowing of the system. So maybe people are just operating
In limbo.
without a strong foundation that is rooted in understanding sentle, what are we doing here and how are we doing it. Whereas ko lenyalo, gore go apewa ko dipotong, ba bangwe ba ira seswa, ba bangwe ba sega nama, and you're able to divide labor because this is something that is a part of you, runs in your veins. Whereas when you work in an environment where the system is not even authentic to the way of life for the people or the culture that they're used to, then maybe they're unable to really put their minds around it and really grasp it and have that sense of ownership that you speak about. Because if it's borrowed from elsewhere, we don't own it. We're borrowing it. So I don't know. That was just the train of thought that came into me.
I think it's a matter of we don't see the bigger picture. Kolinyalo, I know where we're going. I know where we're coming from. I know
Say it, Zelda.
what we're meant to achieve. But I'm like, okay, so what is this about? What is the end point? I'm probably going to die tomorrow and leave this job here. So maybe it's going back to have the conversation of the values, of the mission of the organization, and trying to see how me as Zelda can fit into that and feel accomplished when the company succeeds.
Yeah. And you know what? To add on to that, Zelda, now that I was thinking about our national anthem, it's our country. If we think about it, this is our country, and it's the only country we have. Because I don't have any other. I come from Botswana. I don't come from anywhere else. And even in thinking about productivity, this is the only country that we have. So maybe in a conversation about where are we going, we can think about what you are part of this. Whether you work or not, you are destroying our great, even yours, future. Because this is it.
Yeah, this is it.
And this is all we got. It's not like you can wake up tomorrow and you belong somewhere else.
No, you can. You did it.
You don't know how long it took.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, there you have it. This is all we have. Botswana right here, right now. And I hope you enjoyed that discussion. I hope you're inspired to dig deep within yourself and find out how you can contribute towards changing Botswana and driving us to prosperity. Most importantly, just embodying the values that our great-grandparents had. My name is Shatani Samalakai.
And I am Belsa Abo Ame.
You've been watching
The Sapiosexual Platter.